The 70th World Health Assembly will take place in Geneva between May 22nd and 31st. Its online registration has closed, but Taiwan has been left behind and failed to receive an official invitation. Ever since the 2016 election of Taiwanese President Tsai, whose ruling DPP rejects the One China policy, Beijing and Taipei's relationship has been, at best, rocky. A few months after Tsai took office, Beijing paused bilateral talks with Taipei, and relations grew even tenser after U.S. President Donald Trump took a call from President Tsai. Cross-strait relations are now set to face another new dramatic test, which is the island's potential absence from the WHO this year. And the controversy extends beyond this particular meeting. Since Tsai's election, Beijing has used international conferences to check Taiwan's stature, almost blocking it from attending the WHO last year, and successfully pressuring the International Civil Aviation Organization last September to revoke its invitation to Taiwan. Such international conferences are important for Taiwan, even if it's usually only allowed to attend as an observer. Meanwhile, Taiwan's increasing participation in international events, particularly the WHO since 2009, which was possible thanks in part to efforts by former Taiwanese President Ma Ying-jeou.
During the previous administration, Taiwan has a so-called practical diplomacy policy. So I think that the current policy chosen by President Tsai, she only emphasized Taiwan's own intention and own capacity, resulting that maintain a good relationship with Beijing. But practically speaking, that Beijing still enjoy very strong influence in international affairs. So in that situation, that since we cannot, break through the Beijing's pressure and constraint, then we will face, many obstacles in our diplomacy.
Now let's look back at the history of Taiwan and WHO. In 1971, Beijing replaced Taiwan at the WHO, and in 2004, after China's mishandling of the SARS epidemic, the international community rallied around Taiwan's push to partake in global health initiatives. And that year, the WHO failed to issue Taiwan its invitation to the assembly by the normal date of early April. And the rumors about a Chinese boycott would never officially confirmed. An invitation letter from the WHO secretary eventually arrived on May 6th, just 3 weeks before the opening day on May 23rd. And this letter, however, was only a conditional offer. It premised Taiwan's participation on the basis of the Taiwan's accept the United Nations General Assembly resolution and WHO resolution, and in line with the One China principle and policy. Such a statement was absent in the previous 7 invitations. But this year, the situation is much more difficult. How then might Tsai respond is everybody's question.
I think we are doing a lot. For example, we are trying to increase our links with Japan, of course, with the United States. And also, we have a southbound policy. And because now the South, including Southeast Asia and South Asia, like India, that's a booming economic area. For Taiwan, we know that this is a market-driven policy. So I think that's good for Taiwan to explore more and more opportunities outside of China. And of course, I think our government maintains clearly that that's not a zero-sum game. We hope we can enhance our relationship with China, but without sacrificing Taiwan's sovereignty.
Despite Tsai's efforts, Tsai still has many dilemmas and difficult problems to solve. She may want to keep Taipei's seat in the WHO, but she also vowed not to compromise with Beijing's One China principle. There are 3 ways she could respond. 1, condemn the One China principle and refuse to acknowledge it, or take Ma's One China different interpretations approach, or offer an entirely new take on the 1992 consensus. The first 2 options are potentially unattainable, since the first one will likely likely anger Beijing, and the second will anger Tsai supporters. That leaves Tsai with only a third approach, which she did by proposing so-called 3 news principle, but unfortunately, she tried without much success.
Either we stand with our current position and endure our continuous setback in the international participation and suffering the loss from this defeat. Otherwise, I think we have to change our course of diplomacy by that improving relationship with Beijing first. Then we can remove or reduce the obstacle, the constraint or obstacles on Taiwan's international participation. Then I think we will have a better opportunity to go internationally and also to expand our diplomacy.
Since Beijing looks pretty reluctant to accept Tsai's 3 news principle, which is new realities, new consultations, and new forms, the outlook for Taiwan is rather gloomy. If Taiwan loses its spot at the WHO, which is very likely, it could end up being excluded in the future from other international organizations. Tsai has long promised to maintain the status quo in cross-strait relations, but the question now is whether she can deliver. She probably could should the government come up with a new policy or strategy before the WHO opens on May 22nd this year, but the chances, I think it's safe to say, is rather small.